Say hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a bit sleepy today. It's
Yeah,
11 a.m. already here. I don't know. I woke up early and I was like super energetic and I was like, I have the whole morning. And now it's already 11 a.m. and I'm like, I didn't do
time
as
is
much
gone.
as I thought. Yes.
Yeah, I often get that as well. When like those days when time is just slipping through your fingers, and you think I haven't done half of what I wanted to do, and it's over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Pluto is moving to Aquarius today, no?
Is it today? Yes,
It's
it's
today.
today.
Yeah,
Yes.
the 23rd. So
I have it here. I
yeah,
prepared this.
yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
March 23 at 12:13 GMT. So in about 3 hours.
Yeah, we're very close. We're on the verge. And
Ah!
yeah, I know. And I woke up today, and like usually I wake up, I check my phone, and I have a look at what I have, messages or whatever. And I had this like spam message from like my website, someone saying that they hacked my website, and I was like, and I just woke up, so I was like, what? Like it was really like. And then I was like, okay, well that's a spam, like that's for sure a spam. It's like um what is that they call like a scam. So they're obviously trying to get money and stuff. But
Yeah.
but it's a scam like asking for you to pay in bitcoins as well. Like how Pluto in Aquarius is that? It's like no,
Wow.
you're not gonna have bitcoins. Like what the fuck?
Wow. Yes. And also, I don't know. I mean, if your website does get hacked in reality,
Hmm.
you would feel like, in some ways, very proud, right? Like I'm very
Well, I
important.
feel
They're trying
invaded
to hack my
though.
website.
I feel really invaded. But the thing is, what really like helped me, I guess, to know that this was a scam is that they're like, oh, we've got all the information of your customers and your employees. I'm like, I don't got any employees. And, like, I don't put any of my customers' information on my website. So good luck with that. Like that was like
Ah,
clearly a scam. But like, imagine if I did have though, because I still don't like everything I do is still very, very much like manual and like, it's like it's still very much what's the word? Like old school, I would say, someone message me
yes.
and say, hey, I want to have a consultation and say, okay, I've got this day available, that time available. I don't have like a put your card here and pay for it. Like it's
I
so
do
in a
have it. I'm more like Pluto in Aquarius. I have it like choose your available slots. So they go to the calendar and they find which slots are available. And then it's just get you pay and yeah.
yeah, it's automatized a little bit more, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which, my partner keeps saying I should do that as well. And I'm always like, nah, I have to say Virgos are very controlling. Even though like I like to say, I'm not and I'm a freedom loving person and all. Like there is a side of me that likes to know what's going on and you know. It's I think it's a Lee's Green book that was Barriers and Boundaries that she says
Hmm.
so the controlling tendencies of Virgo is a defense mechanism against chaos. And I think I feel that very much. It's like I, you know,
Ah.
any sort of chaos. And I feel that if I
But
don't know things, and it's like, and also resistance to have a calendar booked too much in advance as well. It's like maybe
hmm.
that will have to change as well in a while, but
I mean, it's to me it's the opposite actually. I get annoyed by having to do I think we
you're,
talked about this once, like the little things that we need to do to for our job, like organizing the appointments. So I
yeah,
get like very, very annoyed with that. So I prefer not to have to deal with that. So I used to have an assistant for a while. I was a mess, you know. I think I shared this once. Like people were asking me to do their charts, and I would go around and around trying to find a moment to meet them. So sometimes
yeah.
people actually got angry. I remember once she got one client, she got very angry. Like, I'm trying to have an appointment with you and you keep going around and around. And she was right, actually. She was also going a little bit round and around, but it's like we got two people who can't commit together. And basically, so I hired this assistant, and basically, when they were contacting me for a consultation, I would tell them you need to contact my assistant, and he will do it. And now what I do is to automatize it.
Mm.
But it's interesting because to me that's the way I protect myself from chaos, from the chaos, from my own chaos, from my chaotic mind. I'm very bad also at, this. You've been living in different places. You need to adjust to different time zones,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
my
yeah.
mind collapses when I have to do that.
That's how the time zone works. Yeah.
And with the website, they get it on their own time zone. I set the available times that I have. They pay. It's like I don't have to deal with the issue of paying, not paying, whether they have paid, they didn't pay. It's like you book, you pay. So I get that also out of the way.
Yeah, yeah,
So in some ways, to me, it's
yeah.
fantastic.
It's liberating, isn't it? I mean, that's the Aquarian in you, I suppose. More into
Yes,
automatize that's actually helping and saving time. Whereas for me, it's like unknown territory. It's like,
exactly.
how would
Yes.
that work? You know?
It's interesting, and I prefer not to know. Like in the weekend, I will look at the usually on Saturdays. I will look at the calendar to see what's coming up on the next week,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so then I know, on Friday I have a consultation. Maybe on Tuesday I have a consultation. I have to prepare it. I
Right.
I always make sure I have enough time to prepare it, of course, because
Yeah,
of the way I've set the appointments. You make sure you have enough time. But it's like, so I don't know to like I'm not aware of how many people have booked, how many people they actually. I had one client. She was asking me like, did you get my payment? Because I don't know, I haven't checked. And she was like, "Huh, what do you mean you haven't checked? Don't you need to make sure you are getting paid?" And I was like, yes, I should check actually. But for me, it's so boring and so tedious to have to deal with that stuff,
yeah.
that to let the computer do it. It's like, I'm free.
Yeah, yeah. Literally the computer doing something to free you up, isn't it? It's interesting how it all works. I still like very much to do it old way, like old school. Like I talk to them, I know what they're after, I can say no if I'm not the right person. Like it gives me a sense of like agency and control over what's happening. Because if someone says, "Hey, I want to go stage because I want you to tell me my future," I'm like, well,
Yeah.
probably not the right person for you because I'm not going to tell you
Yes.
your future. You know?
Yes.
Um, so I avoid those situations, which I have had in the past. I have
It's
had like
true. Yeah.
winning something that was completely like not what I could offer, and it was very awkward, and I didn't know what to do. It was many years ago as well, but then I learned my lesson. I can really always make sure that the kind of because some people might be looking for traditional astrology as well, because
Yes,
that's
I agree.
so popular now, especially with the younger people, that they will
Yes.
look for that. But I guess if your website is clearly stating it, then
Yeah,
I
that's
say
what I was gonna say. Like my website is clearly stating. I think most people that come to my consultations is either because they saw me or they heard me talk somewhere or they follow me on Instagram. So they also have an idea of what the kind of things I do. But it is true. I
yeah,
mean, in some ways, I think your way is nicer. I mean, I think it's
mm,
nicer.
more romantic.
It's more humane. I mean, I think it's nice to talk to someone.
Yeah,
Like I was surprised once I had a person who booked on the website to have analysis, to do like ongoing analysis every week. And I was
yeah,
surprised because like that's something very intimate, and like
yeah,
you don't want to talk to me first. So I was like, "Are you sure this is what you want?" And he was like, "Yeah, this is what I want."
yeah. That is so
So
neat.
it's
Yeah,
interesting. And it did
yeah,
happen to me once that I had one person who booked something and they were expecting completely something else.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
realized as soon as I started. So I told them, you know what, if you want, I can refund you the money. And I mean, we can either reschedule and do it the way that we want, or the one that I can do it, or I can refund you the money. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's
Because
the
it was
deep.
once. If it happens all the time, maybe it's different. But if it's only once, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, how are you feeling with this Pluto now? I mean, diverting this into this movement of Pluto now. Are you looking forward to it? Have you been feeling the energies?
I have been feeling more the energy of the Aries ingress and the new moon in Aries than and also the Saturn into Pisces. I felt it a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe because Saturn is one of the rulers of my chart because I'm Aquarius rising. So I
Yeah.
do feel a lot like I went into this phase of the unknown, and like I was constantly confused and tired, and I was constantly confused. Like I was teaching and I was saying so many things that were not wrong, but like not precise enough. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, "Did I show you this chart?" And they were like, "No, you didn't send it." And I was like, What chart did I send?" "No, you sent this other chart." And I was like, "Ah, okay, okay, then let's use that other chart." And I was like, "What's happening?" You know?
Yeah.
I sent
Yeah.
I sent I sent the homework to the list of students from last year, and they were like, "Why do we have to do this now?" I was
Virgo.
like, "No, I confused the list. I'm sorry. It says
Oh,
2022. I thought it said 2023 on the list." I was like, What am I doing?" So I
wow.
really felt that. The Pluto in Aquarius, so far, I don't feel it that much, like on a personal level.
Hmm.
Do you feel it?
Um, it's hard to say, isn't it? Because when you have multiple transits like this, like
Hmm.
the new moon, the ingress, the Mars about to move to Cancer, and you have so many different things. I think the key word for March is busy. It's like a very busy month. There is a lot of astrological movements happening.
Yes.
That a lot of like intense shifts in the sense that there are like important long-lasting shifts. Even with Pluto going back to a Capricorn, it's still a long-lasting shift. So it's confusing to pin down into one thing only.
Hmm.
But I would say that I can definitely feel the Saturn in Pisces as well is opposing my Mercury. I don't really feel confused. Um, but I do notice like some interesting things. Um, so basically, Saturn has done what would be a 14-year period, full like is around 14 years that it goes 180 degrees, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah.
From one place to the next. So when I moved to England, I had Saturn conjoined my Mercury. So now
Mm.
it's like a full half cycle, and
Yes.
Saturn is opposing my Mercury.
Hmm.
And I really feel this movement because it's the 10th and the fourth house. And I'm like, I want to go back to Brazil. Like, I'm here, I came back. So you can see again, like, I have a different background again behind
Yes.
me. So I'm in the Lake District, which is, amazing, beautiful, natural area here in England, sort of north, near Scotland and stuff. Um, but every place I stayed since I came back, because I stayed in Bristol for a little bit, then I went to Cornwall for a little bit, then I came here. I have this horrible allergy this whole time
Ah,
I'm
wow.
here. And I think symbolically it has to do with that Saturn. Because I can't like properly breathe, and it's like taking its toll on my work and like how much I can work, how much I can concentrate. And as in my
Mm.
fourth house, it's like, hey, go back. What are you doing there? you know? So I'm like, this period of being like rethinking my strategies as well, of like, actually, I don't want to leave half and half. I want to do maybe 9 months in Brazil, 3 months somewhere else.
Hmm.
And, it's being like a real time of like letting go of this old base. Like, I take a long time because my angles are fixed. So it's like, oh, maybe, my life in England is kind of transitioning to something else, but it's still my base. But then it's like, actually, it's not. It's like 4 years later, and I'm still like in that dance. So I feel that Saturn is definitely making itself present in my life in that way. And I thought it was so interesting that it is exactly exactly opposite to where it was when I
That's
moved here.
very interesting. Have you checked the astrocartography if you have any line going over
Um,
England?
I know that my ascendant shifts to Sagittarius, so I have North Node on the descendant. I have
Hmm.
South Node on the ascendant in England. I have Venus on the midheaven as well.
Ah.
Yeah, so I have Venus on the midheaven. Um, I've always had a strong feeling that like I my partner would be British somehow, like.
Ah, wow. Within a
And in a way,
time.
like he is. Like we went back to Brazil and we went there together. He's learning Portuguese. He's very keen, and like he liked it. I This last time I was in Brazil, he came with me and it was an experiment. It was like how you're gonna feel. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like exaggerating things for him as I was like, listen, it's dangerous. And get yourself a phone that you don't care about to walk around with, because if someone steals it, then you need it's okay. So I made him get a phone like that's not his, real phone that he uses it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you get robbed, if something happens, and like there's loads. I mean, you're from Argentina. I knew that
Yeah, I
you.
understand. Yeah.
It's a complete different lifestyle, right? Like we go to Brazil and then like we order an Uber. We have to check how many trips that Uber did. How many stars does that Uber driver has because they can kidnap you, right? That's So I have canceled Ubers because they weren't driving long enough. It's like this guy's been driving for a week. Like I don't know who this guy is. I'm gonna cancel it. Whereas if I was in England, I wouldn't mind. I'd be like, right, okay, I'll go in that Uber, because you don't hear about kidnaps unless you're a rich person and then
Mm-hmm.
professionally kidnap you.
I mean, I
So
haven't had that with Uber, but I do find sometimes I'm walking on some places here in Athens, and I'm
mhm.
like, if this was Argentina, I wouldn't be walking at this time
Yeah,
alone, so as relaxed as I am. It's like,
yeah, yeah. It's a different life. It's a different life, and it has its ups and downs. There's like pros and cons, like anywhere.
of course, there are
Because
things that are fantastic there. That's why you're thinking actually you want to go back.
yeah,
There are
it's
some
like
things that are
the
fantastic.
the downside of here is like this crazy living costs, crisis, and the weather as well. And I never thought that affected me, but it
Mm.
does. It
Well, I'm in
actually.
Athens. I don't have that. I don't have that problem. But yeah, it's true that the life cost in Europe is high. I think
Yeah,
also the lifestyle is more like work approached in some ways. I mean, I think in Argentina also people have to work a lot to make a living, especially now with the crisis.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but
Well, I think
there
we do
is,
as well. You're right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
But
a
there is
general.
this kind of the important thing of life is not so much work; it's more like enjoying life.
Yeah. I mean, it's my parents are getting really old as well, which is again that Saturn the fourth house, and I'm feeling old.
Mm,
I'm like really knowing old age somehow more intimately, even though
yeah,
like it hasn't really happened yet, but I do really like feel it as well. So that transit, I definitely felt it.
yeah, and also
Um,
Saturn in the fourth is like, what is the essence of belonging to you?
yeah,
Like when you have Saturn in the house, I feel like it's asking to go to the essence of things, and if it's
yeah,
in the fourth, it's like, what is the essence of your
yeah,
sense of belonging, your sense of past, your sense of family, your sense of routine,
yeah,
and how may that serve your Mercury in the? Is it in the tenth? Your Mercury?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and the sun as
So.
well. Well, the sun and Mercury in
Mm.
conjunction, so it's both. So it's like, yeah, I gotta accept and then shift, this perspective into right. Brazil, São Paulo is my base, and from there I go for 3 months somewhere, and I spend time outside because I love traveling, but this is, the place. I don't
Yeah.
need to go from place with allergy and be like
Yeah.
struggling as if So it's been very interesting, but yeah, like I was saying, my partner actually in the end he really enjoyed Brazil, even though there's a very complete different lifestyle and different things wits that you need to keep, if someone is like walking behind you or if
Mhm.
we had like two three people screaming around my flat because they got their phones robbed, and and
Oh,
they're like
really?
they're like wailing, in the street, and you're like, shit, what happened? So you go in the window check, and it's like, oh, they got their phone stolen. I was like a
Oh,
little
wow.
It's like a little gang of, bicycle riders that if you're like walking distracted with your phone, they just grab it. I mean, you do
Ah,
that in Europe as well, but there is like a lot. And
wow.
yeah, and but nevertheless, he liked it, so great. And so now he's like looking into like digital nomad visas because you can get digital nomad visa in Brazil and stay in Brazil for a year.
Ah,
Um,
wow.
Yeah, and then you can extend for another year if you want to, but that's like plenty of time. So
It's interesting, and it's also interesting how these because I have a friend, one of my best friends. He for a while he wanted to move to Argentina. He's from Italy, from the north of Italy, and I think that some Europeans, when they go to Latin America, they connect with this sense of chaos, this sense of freedom, perhaps, or passion. I don't know how to call it. Like this idea that life thrives at the edge of things and not in the structured
yeah,
approach. And I think they get this feeling of being alive. And I'm not saying that Europeans are not alive or that European life is dead. I'm not saying that. I'm choosing to live in Europe because I like it. So I don't
yeah,
want to sound like um yeah, like I don't want to sound mean to the European lifestyle, but I do think
yeah,
that a lot of Europeans, if they are not too rigid and they have this sense of flexibility and adventure, they actually enjoy a lot when they go to Argentina. They find it so rich. And I think also it's the diversity of
yeah,
options, like the diversity of approaches to life. I guess in Brazil it's the similar with Argentina. We mix everything with you can do Reiki and Theta healing and astrology and tarot, and also go to church and pray to Jesus. And
yeah, and
when
also
you
be a
come home,
mathematician, and also like you don't have to be there, or you don't have to pick and choose, and like you don't have to
it's
make sense.
like very Sagittarius Pisces. I don't know. It's like, yeah, just whatever works, just
Is
go
that
for it.
how's the signs of Argentina? Was it
So
Pisces?
Argentina is a Cancer. It's Cancer. They were born. We have the independence is the 16th of June.
Uh-huh.
Why am I doubting? I should know this. This is the who is it? Wait,
What's the moon of
I feel
Argentina?
it's wrong. I feel it's wrong. Let me check. Let me check. I feel it's wrong. How do I know? How am I doubting this now?
You've been spending
Uh,
a lot of time in Europe. Look, you're becoming an European. I bet you
my
know the Greek chart
God.
by heart.
Uh, it's the 9th of July. I was like, no, it's not the 16th
Ah,
of June. It's the 9th of July. Yeah. So it's
yeah.
Cancer
Uh-huh. And the
with the moon
moon.
in Capricorn.
Oh wow, quite traditional.
Yeah, and
Is
there's this tension between the sun it's the leaders and the moon is the people. So that's always there was this artist, I think it was Marta Minujín, an artist in Argentina, who was saying that we need to redeclare our independence to find a better suitable time because it's a
uh-huh.
full moon. It's like the people are always going to be against the leaders. But it's interesting
Interesting.
because they are changed. So we have what is it? We have the sun in Cancer in the 10th house. Well, we don't know the time, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
but it is said the usual chart is the noon chart, which gives us Libra rising.
Right.
I always suspected of this chart because what I read is that they spent the whole day discussing the Declaration of Independence and they signed it at night. So this shouldn't be Libra rising, but I didn't find any historical document that
I see.
I don't know if this is true or this is just a story that it's told. So
Yeah.
usually people use the noon chart, which gives us Libra rising. And if
Uh-huh.
that's true, we have the sun in the 10th house and the moon in the 4th house, but the moon in Capricorn and the sun in Cancer.
Wow.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very traditional. Um, we have Sun in Virgo in Brazil and Moon in
Doesn't
Gemini.
look like it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't look at all like it's a bad Sun in Virgo, I guess, the shadow of Virgo, which is like the worst Pisces.
Yes.
Completely like disorganized and like deceiving as well. But the moon is in Gemini, and I really see that in the population. So the moon is in the fourth house as well in Brazil, and it's conjoined Jupiter. It's a very, very tight conjunction with Jupiter
I see
in Gemini.
that.
I
Yeah, I
really
see that. Yeah.
like Brazilian population is like no matter what's happening, they found a way to make a meme out of it. No matter how disgraceful the
Yeah.
situation, there's gonna be a meme and there's gonna be a joke about it, and there's
Yeah.
gonna be someone laughing about it or something, and this the syncretism as well, this ability of being of two complete opposite opinions at the same time. Like I think that's very classic Brazilian as well. Like Brazilian people have the ability to not hold to one truth at all
Mm,
times. This is
yeah.
like a really fun thing as well.
And
But
I'm also thinking of Carnival, the opportunity of Carnival with the moon in
yeah,
Jupiter in the Gemini, and how you can play different
course.
characters in Carnival, and it's like a huge party. I mean, I've never been in Carnival in Brazil, but I saw. You remember Alessandro from DMA?
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm following him on Instagram, and I saw his videos in Carnival, and I was like,
yeah.
wow.
It's mental. It's mental. I mean, I had carnival blocks, which is like street parties on my street. I just look at the window and there's this like wave of people down there, which is insane. I took pictures from up there as well, like all the people dressing up. I need to put my charger 1 second. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, yeah. I
So,
mean, it's crazy.
what about the new moon? Did you do any ritual or anything? Because I know you're always saying like, pay attention to your intentions, pay attention to your intentions. And I was
Yeah,
planning like, I did the podcast with Kira Sutherland, and she was like, if you can take the day off, you should take the day off to see what you're gonna do. This new moon is super powerful. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I was looking at my calendar and I was like, oh, I have so many patients this day. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Then in the end, in the evening, I was alone and I was like, yeah, I have the whole evening for myself, and I didn't do anything.
yeah. I
Like I
know.
felt so much energy. I
Yeah.
started reading a lot for my MA, and I was like, I feel so full of energy. So I started reading a lot for the MA. And then I was thinking, I should have done the ritual, but I didn't do. Did you do anything?
No, I didn't do anything because I've been in transit here, like going from here to there. So I'm like spending most of my energy trying to settle so I can work. It's like I've got work to do, and I had to talk to do to the lodge as well about the
Mm.
astrology of the area, and I'm pretty sure it was around the new moon as well. And I just had to work like 10 hours one day because one, I'm a perfectionist. I can't just say I'm gonna give a talk about something and not research about that something. Like
Hmm.
Saturn rules my third house. I
Yeah.
have to do like proper research about things I'm gonna talk about and like really have something interesting. So it took me like a whole day pretty much to put that. And I think maybe the talk was on a day of the new moon. Was it
On
the
Tuesday,
new moon?
right?
No, it was
No,
on
I think the
Wednesday.
new
Day
moon.
before.
So
Yeah,
on the 21st was the new moon, right?
yeah, that's it. The 20th was the
Yeah.
ingress, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sun ingress. Um, yeah, no, I was so exhausted on Tuesday from working the whole day on a Monday for the Lord. It was like I woke up and I still didn't have my slides. Do you do that sometimes? Does that happen to you sometimes? You have
I
to give a
tried to
talk and it's like
I try to do them way in advance, but the thing is sometimes I used to do them so much in advance that
forget.
when I got to the time of the talk, I was like, what I was planning to say in this slide? I got to this slide, and I'm like, why did I choose this picture? Also, I tried to put not too much words in the slides. Now I'm changing it a bit. I'm starting to put more words to help
Mm,
me remember what I was trying to say, basically.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but so sometimes I get to the slide and I'm like, why did I choose this chart? Like, what was I thinking? So it's hard, but I prefer like I know if I don't do if I like now I have to do a talk on the 1st of April, and today I
mm,
was preparing the presentation because it was like I want to make sure I'm not running in the last minute. But sometimes
yeah,
I do. Sometimes because we have so many things to do.
yeah, yeah,
Also, I guess it depends on the presentation. Like some presentations, I'm very graphic, so
mm,
sometimes I need to see it in order to understand what I want to say and to
mhm,
organize how I want to say it. And so, for some presentations that are perhaps more unknown territory, let's say, I need to prepare more in advance. Then for some other presentations which are kind of easier or not easier, but that something I've taught before, I've talked about it a lot. I'm not so
mm,
scared. I don't need to prepare that. I know I can come up quickly with a nice presentation.
yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I think my optimum time is about a week before.
Hmm.
A week before, not to necessarily do the slides. The slides I usually do about 3 days before, or like 4 days before maximum. But if I'm doing on a leisurely pace, but I can easily get the slides done like a day before the presentation or 2 days before the presentation, so it's fresh in
Ah,
the mind.
yeah.
I know what I'm saying, and I'm personally involved with the subject as well, because otherwise I don't get the same degree of passion and eloquence. But I need at least like a week to do the research. It's like 2 days researching, and I usually read a lot of academic stuff on whatever it is that I'm talking about. I'm just like,
Mhm.
what are they saying? So there is this huge amount of work, and I did all of that in like one day. So the new moon, I was just really wiped out.
Mhm.
I
Well,
really
which could be part of
needed
the
to
new moon
rest.
in Aries to end up exhausted.
Yeah, I didn't even think, like, oh, this is a new moon. I'm gonna. There is a meme. It's quite funny. Like, me planning the rituals for the moon or the new moon or the full moon. But like, what I end up doing, and it's like this guy lying down in bed with like a little lighter and like a card, like
Yeah,
not
and I
really.
mean, I guess you don't really need to do something
Yeah,
theatrical, in the way, like I was saying, I was planning to do a ritual and everything, and in the end, I spent hours reading for my MA. Well, I would say finally. I mean, maybe that was my ritual. Finally, I got the energy to focus on the MA.
yeah.
Like I have my
You need it,
supervisor
right?
pushing me, sending me emails like, Alejo, you need to send me this. Alejo, you need to do this. And I'm like, I
Yeah,
need to find the energy
100%.
to do it. And maybe this was my ritual, like, yeah, finally
Is Aries
getting,
in your third house?
sorry,
Is Aries in your third house?
Aries rules my third house, yes.
Yeah.
But it's not
So
at the beginning. I mean, my third house cusp, depending on which house system you use,
yeah,
but it's kind of in the
use
middle.
the
But
whole house.
use the whole hand. Should we get there? Do we want to open that kind of worms? Oh my God! What this is Pluto in Aquarius.
Yeah,
This I think is Pluto in Aquarius. The
it
idea that
is.
it's one single truth that's going to free us and set us
Oh
free.
yeah, and
I
or there
think
is
it's
a superior truth,
yeah.
and it's easier said than done because when you see someone saying something that you're like, "What are you talking about? That's definitely wrong. I'm right, you're wrong."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It can trigger. It can be triggered for all of us. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That was intense, wasn't it? That discussion. I mean, we're not gonna go there, but
Let's not go there. We're slightly falling into
divert.
that. Yeah,
Aries
let's
is
not go there.
so on the conversation of Aries. Aries is in my sixth house. The
Ah,
cusp. Yeah, the cusp of my six, and I'm having all of these allergies. But also, if we count, the new moon would have fallen into my fifth, which is about creativity and personal, the personal signature, isn't it? Doing something.
mm-hmm.
Um, I feel that there is a adding up and a transition from fourth to fifth for me. Progressed moon is still in a fourth. And I feel like I'm tying the knots, like the last knots of like, where is home? Where is my base? So I can be really creative and not think about that anymore. Um,
Mm.
so I think this new moon was again another step of that process because I only had to do my slides the whole day and get really tired because I had to travel 8 hours on a Friday before. So I couldn't do any
Wow.
work. I would have done work on that Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to drive
Yeah.
all the way from Cornwall to here and I was like, okay, this life isn't sustainable anymore.
No, it's not. We need to find a way to yeah to do it sustainable. Now, I'm looking at the full moon. It's actually in my third house.
Mm,
So the new moon didn't make it.
yeah,
New moon is in the second house, of course, but the full moon is actually right on my third house
yeah, yeah. Interesting.
about writing, yeah, and sharing ideas.
Yeah,
And then we have the other new moon on the 20th of April, which is the eclipse, 29 degrees of Aries.
yeah. We've got two new moons in Aries this month. Well, this
Yeah.
month season. Yeah.
And so do you use the lunations only with conjunctions, or do you also use oppositions and squares and stuff?
What do you mean to interpret the chart of a lunation?
Yeah.
Or
I mean, when you like, I don't know what to do. For me, that like new moons and full moons that are important, they have to be activating some planet in your chart or some planet or some
ah,
celestial point.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
And
so
you,
when I say activating, my question
mhm.
is it conjunctions, oppositions, squares, trines, all of them?
Right. I think obviously I tend to keep the orb very tight for lunations because the moon moves so fast, and
Yeah.
I really tend to keep it very tight. But I do see when there is a trine, but I also see that's not as strong. It's like, okay, well, this full moon is trine my Saturn, and then there is usually something. I like what Bernadette Brady said about trines is removal of obstacles. So I love to kind of observe and be like, that's a little bit of a flavor there, but it's not as important. I definitely think that when it comes to lunations, what's more visible is conjunctions, conjunctions
Yeah.
or oppositions. If it's like full moon opposite your sun as well or something. There's definitely something more relevant when it comes to that. And even more relevant when it's something that's activating a larger transit. So let's say
Yeah.
you got a sun at zero Aquarius, Pluto moved to Aquarius, and then we have a full moon at zero Aquarius. Well, that's gonna be like pa pa pa, really strong, and you really
Pa
want to.
pa pa. Pa
Exactly.
pa pa. You better get ready. Pa pa. Oh, you. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Pa.
Exactly. Or like a new moon, zero Aquarius with that Pluto right there. It's activating that long-term transit. That's definitely something very, very relevant.
Yeah, I agree. I
But as
usually think,
don't look at it so much. Yeah.
yeah, I usually think of conjunctions also, but with the other day I was with a patient and we started tracking down her lunations, and actually the new moons that were opposing celestial points were very important to her. And I was like, because at first I told her, no, if they're opposing, they're not so important. Probably the conjunctions are more important. And she was like,
But
I don't
it,
know. Okay. I was said, okay, let's track them down and see, how it works for you, because it might not be the same for everyone. And it was the new moons that were opposing celestial points in her chart that were super significant.
does she have
Interesting.
a lot of oppositions on her chart as well?
She has a strong opposition between the sun and the moon.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's something very strong part of her psyche as well,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's
Which
a
I
good
guess
idea.
is a is how astrology works in the end. It's like what you understand by these placements, and then that's how you're gonna experience when it comes as a transit as well for you. A Pluto
Hmm.
transit won't be the same for everyone, and I think that's definitely quite relevant. You said something about this client, and he did make me think of something as well. Um, what was it?
New moons
Ah,
oppositions.
no, I was thinking about lunar families. You heard of that?
No.
That's something that I find very interesting as well. Now, I can't remember who came up with this idea. That's not mine. I'm not claiming it's mine. Okay, disclaimer here. Um, but there is this idea of lunar families that every lunation will have roughly the same degree of the sign that starts. So let's say we had a new moon
Ah, yeah, I heard about this. Yes.
9 months later you have a first quarter, 9 months later you have a da da, 9 months later you have a full moon. Now those I see as important
Yes,
because
I do.
obviously they are on the same degree. So then it would be counting with the first quarter and certain lunar phases that we don't usually pay attention to.
Yeah.
So
So, sorry for the people who are listening, so they can understand exactly what Fernanda is saying. So, when you have a new moon, let's say you have a new moon at zero Aquarius, 9 months later, there's going to be a first quarter moon very close to zero Aquarius. And 9 months later, there's going to be a full moon very close to zero Aquarius. And 9 months later, a last quarter moon very close to zero Aquarius. So there is this
mhm,
process, this lunation. I love this because a lot of astrologers use the lunations. Like you start on the new moon, and 6 months later, on the full moon of the
mhm,
same signs that are opposing, you're actually getting the results, right? And for me, it's like, come on, in some processes, 6 months is nothing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I like this idea because it takes 9 months to get to the first quarter, the 9 months. So it's like, it's several
yeah,
years to actually something to emerge. I
yeah,
also like the idea of using 9 months, which is a gestational period in humans. So I
yeah,
think like it's super meaningful. I learned this
yeah,
from Frank Clifford, but he's
yeah.
quoting a German astrologer. I can't remember her name either.
Um, Frank as well, and I thought that was really interesting. When I did the LSA, that's where I learned about the lunar families, and then obviously you start to observe in your chart. Because when there is a new moon, we're just saying about, a new moon conjunction in your sun, in Aquarius, pa, pa, pa. Well, 9 months later, that's going to be a first
If you
quarter.
survived 9 months
Yeah,
later.
yeah. If you were like a mushroom zombie by then, um, that's kind of.
Exactly.
I actually, did you watch The Last of Us? Talking about the mushroom zombies. Did you watch that? That's an HBO
No.
show that was having a lot of, the public was talking a lot about it. I love having a double Gemini partner because he always knows what's going on. And he's always like, hey, people are watching this and they're talking about it. I've seen a lot of memes and a lot of comments and a lot of articles about it. Let's watch
I
it.
love it. Yeah.
I love it as well. And they might use that to think about Pluto in Aquarius, for example, because, it's a collective. It's like there is a show you know, that's hypnotizing the collective in a way. Like everybody's talking about it. So let's have a look at what that is. So there's two things that I watched that apparently a lot of people are talking about. One is this show, The Last of Us, which was based on a video game. So
Mm.
there's apparently a video game called The Last of Us that people played, and a lot of people were saying that the series is very loyal to the game as well, and da da da. I don't know, I have no idea, but it's very Pluto Aquarius, very Pluto Aquarius. First, the problem that transform people into zombies is a mushroom. You know how in my last talk I was saying that for me,
Ah,
I really relate to a mushroom. It's a
yeah.
massively woke show as well. You've got gays and you got all sorts. Like it's very Aquarius as well in that regard. Um, oh, there's a lot of things I can't remember now, but I was like watching it. I was like, oh my god, that's Pluto and Aquarius. The other thing I watched recently that I thought, that seems to be a Pluto and Aquarius is the film that's been done a few years ago, but apparently is being revived and people are watching now and talking about it. It's called Life. Have you seen it? It's a sci-fi as well of people finding life in Mars and
Ah.
bringing into the spaceship and stuff, and that life being actually quite destructive. And
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't heard of it. It's weird. I love science fiction
it's on
films and these
Netflix.
kinds of things.
I think it's on Netflix now. So if you do have Netflix, you can watch it. And again, I
Okay.
thought it had something to do that was capturing the imaginarium of Pluto and Aquarius, like this, sort of sci-fi going searching for life in another planet. But the hubris, of being like, oh, we're gonna find life somewhere else, and that sort of like Frankenstein thing, the monster
Mm.
and that ends up being very destructive and very intelligent as well.
Did you
Um,
know that NASA has a, a role as their, as their job positions? I remember I read the advertisement that they were looking for people to apply for it. Of course, I could never apply for it, but I love NASA. I don't love NASA. I have this weird feeling because I love the idea of traveling in space and to the
uh-huh.
edges of the space of the universe, and at the same time I fear colonization, the dark side of Jupiter, let's say, right? This
Yeah.
overexpanding
Mhm.
idea. So I have this dual feeling with NASA, and but I'm obviously attracted to it. I follow all of the Instagram threads and all of the videos of the astronauts in space and in the space station, and they show you how they drink, how they sleep, how they do sports, how they go to the bathroom, these kinds of things. Anyway, so what was I saying?
You were
NASA.
saying
They
that
have this
I think
position.
our
Yeah,
job.
they had
Yeah.
this position, which is called I don't remember the exact name, but something like protector of the Earth and alien species or something like that, because it's basically somebody who knows a lot about chemistry, physics, biology, and is the person responsible of making sure that we don't spread microbes and bacteria to the other planets that could
Oh,
affect that could affect whatever is happening on the other planets, as well
yeah.
as not bringing these dangers to our planet and
Uh-huh.
what could cause here. And I found it
Like a
so
Men in Black
interesting.
thing. Yeah.
Like,
It's
sorry?
like Men in Black, that film.
No, I haven't. I don't remember. I saw it, but I don't remember.
I think they're a little bit about like, this type of agents. They're sort of
Mm.
like interplanetary. I just didn't know that was actually real. Like there are like people working on that. That's
I
amazing. But
mean, in some ways, it's amazing because what happened in America when the Spaniards, when the Europeans came, was that they didn't only won because they didn't only win because they had gunpowder. They also won because they brought diseases,
hmm yeah,
and
yeah.
the natives could not. They didn't have the, how do you call it, the immune system prepared for
Goodbye.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That's very interesting, isn't it? That's very Pluto and Aquarius as well, I guess.
I think so.
Think about spreading something, spreading diseases out in outer space.
It's
Yeah, I mean, like,
what
honestly,
kind of world are we living in?
I know, and I'm a Virgo, I'm very, very earthy. I'm like, why? To what end? I was like, let's just leave it alone, try to do our best here and like, um,
Yeah, at the
live
same time, I'm super. And also, there's been a lot of talk. I don't know if a lot of talk. Maybe this is what my Instagram, my Pluton Aquarius, who is super smart, shows
algorithm.
me.
Yeah.
Yes, shows me what I'm interested in. But I've seen a lot of posts about wood, forests. Wood is one of the most exquisite elements in the universe. It's like one
hmm
of the most precious elements in the universe, like diamonds and these kinds of things that we think are the most precious thing. They are precious here on Earth. But if you count other planets, like what you
All right.
definitely cannot find in other planets is wood. So there's
Wow.
all this talk
Yeah.
about, like
Yeah.
when are we going to start appreciating that we have something in our planet which is like
Yeah.
so unique.
Oh, I love wood. Honestly, I love wood
Yeah.
and I love trees. I love real like live wood, like woodlands. Oh my God, I love it. And you know what I thought as well about this Pluto in Aquarius because I had to do this whole research about culinary, and again like Saturn is in Scorpio, rules my third house. I cannot do a superficial research. I have to go really deep. So I'm like reading about the discovery of fire and how that changed everything because that's when I start cooking, but how it changed our brains and etc. and etc. And and um and then I got to nowadays. So I watched a whole documentary about the history of food and stuff, and it was really interesting. And it got to nowadays. So basically, it's expected that by I don't know, like 2030 or like 2050 or something, there's almost not going to be anyone in a country. Like people will have migrated to cities and be in like urban, scenarios
Ah,
because everyone is living. You know how in Italy they have these programs of like buying houses in the countryside for
yeah,
1 year because
yeah,
everybody left. And
yeah.
so they're like, there's not going to be farmers and people interested in farming and da da da. So what's the solution? And I saw these people in New York, well, in the US, one in New York who does, they both do vertical farming. So I thought that was very Pluto Aquarius. It's vertical farming. You don't do farm landscape, blah blah, but like it's like upwards. Like we have the buildings, people living on top of each other. So you do farm like that. And one of them is like a local urban project that does in like shipping containers. Those like metal boxes basically. So
Mm-hmm.
they do vertical farming in that in the city. So people can go in there. It's like massively hipster as well. It's like in New York, there's a hipster guy like
Yes, yes.
cultivating, vegetables and like,
Yeah,
herbs and stuff. And like you just go there and get your fresh produce. And
yeah.
but I just thought, wow, that was, because for me that really seemed very Aquarian as well. Imagine like it's like recycling at the same time, and it's like doing, this like urban farming as well, so people can have fresh products and like slowly get rid of the farm factories. I don't know.
I don't
Um,
know. It sounds a bit scary to me.
yeah.
Yeah. And everything that has to do with hipster culture, I find it a bit. I think hipster culture has this look that it's so eco-friendly and healthy and natural
Mm,
approach to life, but I think it's so urban and so
mm.
not so connected with nature actually. It's a
Yeah, I wonder if hipsters are a Pluto and Aquarius thing as well, if you think about it. I don't know. It would be interesting to research the history of hipsters and what's that about, because it's true. I think they're highly urban, but they're trying to go back to these old values of like bread, ancient bread making techniques and, you know, real like coffee
yeah,
grains with,
exactly. But there's
and they're
like
like moving away from the industrial stuff.
yeah, but
Um,
it's a bit I think it's a bit fake in some ways because there are a lot of problems because Europe is buying all of the avocados from Latin America.
ah, yeah, yeah,
So like
yeah,
huge fields are being huge crops of woods are being taken off to grow more avocados, not for the people in Latin America, but to sell them to Europe. With quinoa, when I was in Bolivia, quinoa was super expensive. And I was like,
yeah.
how come quinoa is expensive here and in Europe is affordable? I mean, it wasn't
Mm,
expensive for me because I was carrying euros, but I was
yeah,
like, if I'm living here, how come this
yeah,
is so? Because
yeah,
it's like a new trend. And Palo Santo, do you know Palo Santo?
I do, I
The
do.
other day I was reading, I'm not sure if it's correct because I'm not sure like how trustful the source is, but I was reading there seems to be I think there's a little bit of confusion between two different species, so that's why I'm not sure if it's exactly like that. But there seems to be it's about to become an endangered species because
Mm,
everyone in Europe is buying Palo Santo
yeah,
to do cleansings in their house, and it's
yeah,
like so. I sometimes feel this with the hipster culture and this going back to nature, but not wanting to pay the price. If you want to go back to nature, well, maybe you have to change your lifestyle. I mean,
mm,
there's I don't know. I
yeah,
sometimes find it a bit, and
yeah,
also with the results of gentrification, in the different cities, how
yeah,
has impacted city life also.
yeah,
I mean, and I don't want to sound fake. I mean, I love hipsters bar. I love going for a coffee and having the milk of I don't know what with the cinnamon and with the cinnamon bun made from this and the toast with avocado. I love doing all of that. I'm not saying
yeah,
I don't want to sound fake, but I do it less and less because I wonder like what's the end, what's the result on this? And I think there is this kind of
mm,
marketing campaign to make it look natural and healthy and eco-friendly, and I'm starting to question how eco-friendly it is. But I mean I think this is Pluto and Aquarius also. Like I'm almost vegan. I'm not 100% vegan, but I'm almost vegan, and
wow,
I take a lot of almond milk.
mm-hmm.
Well, I've been reading that the bees are dying
Because
because
of
they're
it.
exhausted because they are hired to pollinize the almond trees because there's so much demand of almond milk. So I'm
Wow,
like, what is the nice friendly answer, to life? Whatever we do is that we hurt whatever we touch. It's like I'm trying to save the cows, so now I'm hurting the bees. So it's like, what is it that I can do? It's like, come
yeah,
on. I think this is
yeah,
also maybe Pluto and Aquarius. I don't know.
for sure. I mean, what I think, I agree with you, and I definitely see that as well. Or like, getting these cool coffee beans that are like cultivated by slaves, somewhere else is like great. Um, and I'm being ironic here, please. I don't mean truly great. But just to make it clear, before someone cancel me, which is another Pluto and Aquarius. But
Yeah.
there's these two sides. I think, and that's why I thought it was interesting about the vertical farming, that the solution is to downgrade the industrial, the
Mm.
industrial um big producing for larger amounts of people, and to really try to become more. And again, there were like specialists in this documentary saying this is impossible from where we are. It's impossible to go all fully local, you know
Mm.
because
Yeah.
that would be the whole thing, like avocados coming from Mexico and quinoa coming from Peru or whatever. It's like partly being alive in this sort of like postmodern society is being spoiled for choices. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm bored. What do I want to have pineapples in the winter in England. It's like, no,
Yeah,
mate, you don't have pineapples in the winter in England. Like pineapples don't grow there and they're not natural there. You gotta have, whatever. Um, so that's what I thought about those containers and like local grown, stuff that people could go and have it. But I agree. I mean, I completely agree. It's like you're trying to save something and then you're hurting something else. Or you're trying to save something and you're hurting yourself, because I don't believe that all of these processed vegan cheeses are good for you.
for sure they're not. Come on.
So it's like, yeah, but I'm not hurting the animals, but you're hurting your bowels and you're
Yeah,
you're like
yeah.
with the history of food as well as like processed industrialized foods is when we start having a lot, more autoimmune diseases and
Yeah,
those big diseases that we didn't have so much before, and
yeah.
suddenly becomes like an epidemic of it as well. So it's hard, isn't it? And I agree, it's weird. I'm not particularly fan of hipsters, but I do appreciate as I get older, like going back to Saturn and getting older and knowing about being old, I'm appreciating more and more good stuff. Like,
Yeah,
don't give
that's
me instant hot chocolate. I don't want that. Like, I'd rather
yeah.
not have it. I want the proper real, like, cocoa solids with, proper real nice chili. Like, I want to have, like, real flavors.
Yeah, I'm on your brother's team who says this could be my last meal. It has to be good.
Exactly.
I completely agree with him. As a fellow moon in Cancer, I completely agree with his thought. Food is
I'm getting
important. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We'll see, That's definitely a lot of material on Pluto and Aquarius there for you guys to
There's
listen and to
also,
think.
I saw an advertisement for a new TV series. I think it's on HBO. I'm not remember now if it's on HBO or Apple TV, maybe.
Hmm.
With Meryl Streep and many like brilliant actors and actresses, and it's
Mm.
called I don't remember how it's called. Let me try to find it. But it's about like the future of the world, basically.
Hmm.
How can I look for this new TV series? Meryl
HBO.
Streep.
Yeah, I think that'll probably.
Meryl Streep joins Only Murders in the Building. This is the one. Extrapolations.
Hmm.
Extrapolations. It's in Apple on Apple TV. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if it's been. I think it's about to come out, but it's about, for what I understand, they go to the future. So there are different stories at different times in the future, like 2030, 2040, 2050, 2060, following what environmentalists say it's going to happen.
All right. Yeah.
So, wait, I have something more about Pluto and Aquarius. I met this woman who is a scientist. Listen to
Yeah.
this. She's a scientist and she's working on this project to design plastic that absorbs carbon dioxide. Dioxin, carbon, how do you say?
Carbon
CO2?
dioxide. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
carbon, carbon dioxide. Because in Spanish
Wow.
we say it the other way around. But so, and she's working on this idea to create plastic to
Hmm.
absorb carbon CO2. I think
Yeah.
it's so Pluto Aquarius.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. That's
It's
absolutely
amazing.
amazing. I mean,
Basically,
they're like trying to design edible plastic, and it's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
We'll see more and more of that. I mean, that's the good side of Pluto and Aquarius, isn't it? I
I mean,
mean,
I
unless
think with every
there is a
planet,
side effect. Like we say, like you save the cows, but you hurt the bees.
yeah, with
Same with the
with
plastic.
with every planet you have the light and the shadow, I guess. So there's always the
Yeah.
downside of it. We cannot only have the light. I think what's important is to know. I mean, I think the only problem with technology, and I see this also with AI, is the belief that someday it's going to set us free, from problems. It may
Yeah.
solve problems, but it will probably create other problems. And
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
it's a
Exactly.
fantasy to believe, like what I'm saying with the milk. Maybe it's a childish fantasy to believe that there's a way to be on Earth without causing any harm at all. In the end, we all have Mars in our chart somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe we need to accept our
Yeah. That's a brilliant way, and that's a brilliant analogy, really. Like you can use it in various situations. Like you know how that is the same analogy of like to make a omelette, you have to break the eggs.
Mm.
So it's
Yeah.
like, well, to save the cows, you have to hurt the bees.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. It is. What's interesting as well in all of this is to see the newer generations, and how much of an impact all of this will have on them as well. What kind of human beings will they be? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
I have a psychiatrist, good friend of mine, and he was saying the fact that babies are already being raised with phones is
Yeah, it's gonna
changing the
change
brain,
completely.
like the connections in the brain that we have are changed from like
Yeah.
how children are raised. And I'm not saying this to judge anyone, Your kid is making a fuss, by all means, put the iPad and get them to watch something so they can, so you can do whatever it is that you need to do. But the point is that something is being changed in our psychology, like deeply, and
Also, I
something.
think the fact that we have so many videos and pictures now. Like when we grew up, I wasn't constantly being recorded and taking photographs and being able to see myself as I was changing and growing up. I would see it. We had a huge mirror in my house, so I would look at myself in the mirror. But there is something more dynamic on it because you cannot go back to see the picture that you saw in your mirror 3 years ago. But
Yeah,
now there's so much visual information about our development, and I think that's also going to change a lot the sense of
yeah,
self
yeah,
um, in people's
yeah,
minds.
absolutely. And the bullying as well. That's something we were talking about, me and my psychiatrist friend as well. He was saying the bullying doesn't stop at school anymore. You go to school, someone would be taking a piss of you, and it would stay there. You go back
Mm-hmm.
home, you do something else. You have your friends from somewhere else, and but now it's on.
Mm.
It's everywhere, everywhere, all the time, all the things. Other that film is like pretty much that feeling now
Wow. That's also
with
Pluto in Aquarius.
the online presence, isn't it? Like we're constantly connected. There is no
Yeah.
more, apart from the older generations that make a point of being disconnected, of being like, this doesn't control me, the baby boomers. Like,
Yeah.
at the same time, my mom is constantly on the phone, like she got used to. But I don't know, yeah. I mean, how is that gonna go, I mean, I don't know. And yeah, I feel, and again, like that's also like the older generations are always fearing the newer
Yeah, it's
generations and the
always
new
like
ways
that. Yeah.
of thinking as
There's
well. It's like, oh, I'm really scared everyone's connected all the time,
yeah.
but like maybe
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah,
There are gonna be
yeah,
good things and bad things about it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
Yeah. So with all of that in mind, let's welcome Pluto and Aquarius, everyone.
Let's welcome Pluto in Aquarius. He's coming in 2 hours actually. 12:13 is here now. In 2 hours exactly. He's gonna
Yeah,
be entering Aquarius. If you have time and the will, you can do a meditation. Melanie Reinhardt used to say she tries to save some minutes to kind of try to tune in with the energy.
yeah,
So if you have the time and the will, you can do it. Um,
yeah.
I will go get a new pot for my plants to move them. So maybe that's a bit Plutonian also, to give them more room to thrive
Well,
and live. I'm trying
yeah.
to save one of them because I think she's
Pick
about to
them
die
back,
in the pot
pick them
she's
up.
in. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. So it's not so much Pluto in Aquarius, but it's Pluto somewhere. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll be working, but I'll definitely think, well, maybe I'll be walking actually amongst the lakes and stuff. So I'll
Oh,
try to
nice.
say a little prayer to Pluto and Aquarius because it will eventually hit my IC. So
And
that's
you're
gonna be
thinking of moving back, and you're thinking about all of these things about where your place of belonging. It's very Pluto on the IC.
yeah, I mean, eventually that Pluto will get there, and I think it will change. My mom has been talking about moving from the house I grew up in my childhood. That's gonna be a huge,
Oh.
that's gonna be a huge change. Um, but for now, it's still all like in the ideas, which I guess is a Pluto still in my third house for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and is the Pluto square Pluto as well? No. I mean, you have Pluto in Libra though, isn't it?
I have Pluto in Libra. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've been going through the Pluto square Pluto. I'm beginning my Pluto square Pluto.
Yes. I have
I
been
hope.
going through a lot more than Pluto square Pluto, but well, we can save that for some other podcast. Because life has been quite intense. Yes.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Amazing.
Um,
Oh, all right.
nice. Well, it was nice to catch up.
Yeah, it was great.
Do you
My
have any upcoming talks or anything, by the way?
I do for Portugal. So we're going to Portugal conference ASPAS in Azores, and I'm going to be
Oh,
giving a
yes.
workshop on relationships. So astrology of relationships and mixing techniques. So it's more advanced
Nice.
um,
It's actually very nice.
use of techniques and things. Um, yeah, so I'm definitely doing that, and not sure later on what I'm going to be doing, but this is definitely the next thing here. I'm still doing weekly videos on YouTube, so if you guys want to check that out, that would be great. Um, and to finish as well, like for my, you know what my partner said? Like we were like talking about maybe bringing guests to the podcast,
Yes.
doing a threesome, um, podcast wise, conversation wise.
Threesome. Yeah.
Yeah, we said that we should use was it GTP? What's
Ah,
the
we could try it. Yeah, that's very Pluton Aquarius also. We could try it. We can
yeah, we
invite
chat
him.
GTP. Yeah,
Is it a him or a she or a they? We can invite
I
them.
think it's they, isn't it? I think we should invite
Yeah.
them. I think it's definitely a them because there's non-binary, isn't it?
I think it's not binary. Yeah. We could try it, yeah, next time. And
All
ask
right.
questions about what does he think? What do they think about
Yeah, about
the
reality,
upcoming
about
transits or
what we need
something?
to do.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice. Yeah. Good.
yeah. And what about you? You giving any talks soon?
So I
Just so
have
you also.
the 30th of March. I have the Heroes, the Astrology of the Heroes Journey on the Faculty of Astrological Studies. I'm very excited about this one, so I invite everyone to come. And then on the
Mm,
1st of April, I'm doing a webinar on about the difference between signs and houses, which is something that a lot of times get overlapped. And I'm very
mm,
obsessed with making clear that they're not the same.
mm.
And yeah,
Nice.
basically that's it. I have a few more, but I
That
don't
for the
remember now.
faculty as well. Is
Sorry.
that one for the faculty as well? The one about signs in houses.
Yes, both are from the faculty. Yes.
Nice.
And if you're interested, you can listen to the podcast that I did with Kira Sutherland
Oh,
on
nice.
Aries, on the on Aries season.
I
You
love
know,
her. I think she's brilliant. Yeah.
she's super Aries. You know, the nice things about doing the podcast about the seasons is that for Pisces, we invited Mark Jones, who is a Pisces. And you can sense when you listen to the podcast, you can sense the Pisces energy. And before that, we did the Aquarius season with Saffron Rossi, and you can sense it's Aquarius. You can sense the intellectual side, the cold, not cold
No,
in a bad way, like the rational
friendly,
side,
rational.
intellectuality, like
No,
very civilized and measured, and the way words were chosen. And then we went to
no,
Pisces, and it was all like
all over
dreamy
the world.
and very sensitive, and yeah. And then we went to Aries with Kira because we chose guests who represent that sign,
No,
and Kira is super Aries, and it was like, I think that's when I started getting all of the Aries vibe, and like, yeah, I'm awake, So
nice.
it's quite interesting for me to feel the different vibes because I
From
have
the
to be like in control, because this one has to last 1 hour and it has a structure that I have to follow, because it's not my independent podcast. I mean, I have to do it in the way that it should be.
20 hours is
Um,
Virgo.
yeah, so it's hard for me to kind of I need to navigate this because they're all different. So how to conduct it, and
Yeah,
I feel so much the different energies. So it's amazing.
yeah. That's really cool. That's really cool, though. Very nice
Yeah.
idea. All right. Well, we're like massively over time. Uh,
Yes, but I think it's nice because we haven't catched up for a long time, so it's
yeah,
okay.
me too. Yeah, me too. That's wonderful. Okay, well, I think we're gonna be catching up once a month now, no? That's the idea.
Probably yes, once a
Yeah,
month.
but we are the out of
Um,
bangers, so you never know.
You never know. Exactly. We never know. This is the problem. It's not that you never know, it's that we never know. We try to do our best. Yes.
Exactly. We're gonna stop trying to promise anything. We don't
Mm,
make promises. We just make
exactly.
great content. No promises, just great content.
Exactly.
That's their
Yes.
slogan now. Nice.
All
Okay, well,
right.
I'll be seeing you probably in a month in some time. Enjoy the Pluto in Aquarius and
You too. Enjoy the eclipse upcoming next.
yeah,
Yeah.
too. Wow, we should have talked about that too late now.
Okay,
But yeah,
maybe we'll do another one before that.
maybe we'll do a
Who
quick one
knows?
about the eclipses. Yeah. All right.
All
Okay.
right, take care everyone.
Ciao,
Bye
ciao.
bye.